Strong storms and flooding today in parts of Utah.
Tracking several thunderstorms here across the state where we have flash flood warnings tonight and what we can expect heading into tomorrow coming up in the forecast.
As COVID-19 cases spike all around Utah, one part of the state is being hit especially hard.
We're asking a lot of them, and it's difficult.
The strain on healthcare workers and what doctors say caused the surge.
Salt Lake County health officials want kids to go back to school in masks, but the legislature says it will not be mandated.
Tens of thousands of Utahns are behind on rent, and the moratorium is about to expire. Today, we take an in-depth look at the numbers and where to go if you need help.
COVID canceled the Days of 47 parade last year. This year, it's back, and people are getting their perfect spot earlier than ever.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
First at 5, flash flooding continues for a second straight day in southern Utah. We're keeping a close eye on it. This is viewer video from Richfield today, where you can see neighborhood flooding and lots of it. It's just another mess our friends in the southern part of the state are having to deal with today.
Let's get right to meteorologist Allison Krogan with what's happening across the state.
Several flash flood warnings in effect right now, mostly for our recreation areas. Flash flood warning for the Upper Paria River Basin area, including Bull Valley Gorge, Sheep Creek, and Dunham Slack Canyon. Several waves of this are expected in the drainage areas down towards the Arizona border. And then Henryville, Tropic, Cannonville, and Kodachrome Basin until 5:15. A flash flood warning over towards the Bryce area, or Escalante, until 8:15. Upper Escalante River Basin and Calf Creek, Capitol Reef area. Flash flood warning until 6:15, Sheets Gulch, 5 Mile Wash, and Cottonwood Wash. Zion National Park until 5:45, Pine Creek, Spry Canyon, Shelf Canyon, and Lower Clear Creek, plus elevated flows through the East Fork of the Virgin River. Up just northwest of there through Enterprise, we do have a special weather statement for nickel-size hail right now in the Enterprise area. That goes until 5:15. Look at all of this cloud-to-ground lightning that we're seeing. We've had flooding in Milford this afternoon, flooding in the Richfield area. We also have some heavy rainfall moving through Highway 6 and then up towards the Idaho border. A special weather statement until 5:30 for half-inch hail and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour. Coming up, what we can expect for the rest of the evening and your threats for these flash flooding areas tomorrow coming up.
Serious stuff. Thank you so much, Allison. The new COVID case numbers, speaking of serious stuff, continue to climb today. 815 new cases are being reported. One more Utahn has lost their life to the virus, and the 7-day positivity rate continues to stay above 13%.
On the vaccine front, more than 5,800 more doses of the COVID vaccine have been administered since yesterday's report, and more than 2,600 more Utahns are now considered fully vaccinated. Doctors in southern Utah say more COVID patients are needing hospitalization.
And their intensive care units are filling up again. Fox 13's Aaron Cox shows us what doctors say is causing the surge and what they predict for the coming weeks.
Even though there has been a surge in COVID-19 hospitalizations, one doctor says the good news is at his St. George Hospital, they have not seen a surge in COVID-19 deaths. The intensive care unit at St. George Regional Hospital is running at 90% capacity every single day with all types of patients. 25% are suffering from COVID-19.
We're asking a lot of them, and it's difficult. They are doing it, but they'd like a break.
Dr. Patrick Carroll says there are more COVID-19 patients in St. George Regional than they saw last year.
This week, we unfortunately were required to expand our ICU once again. We haven't needed to do that since January of this year.
Unlike what happened in January, the death rate has not surged with the cases. The average age of those hospitalized with COVID-19 is 60.
We've learned a lot in a very short time to more effectively treat the infection.
The main message in Dr. Carroll's update: the vaccine works.
Because of the vaccination, we are seeing a decrease in the severity of disease.
Dr. Carroll says though they did not anticipate this surge in cases, it follows the 4th of July holiday, so he's not surprised. He also expects something similar coming after this Pioneer Day weekend. In Salt Lake County, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The Southwestern Health District covers 5 counties: Garfield, Iron, Washington, Beaver, and Kane. As of yesterday, they have seen more than 37,000 cases, more than 1,000 patients hospitalized, and 285 COVID-related deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. More than 40% of their district population has been vaccinated, including 75% of their senior population.
Since January, 97% of our cases in Salt Lake County have been among the unvaccinated.
Salt Lake County leaders are pushing people to get vaccinated as COVID cases continue to surge.
But when it comes to face masks in schools, they say the legislature won't allow it.
Fox 13's Ben Winslow has more from Capitol Hill.
Salt Lake County health officials are recommending that kids who aren't eligible to receive the COVID-19 vaccine wear masks when they go back to school. But the Utah State Legislature has made it clear it will not be mandated.
Today, we are here to sound the alarm.
As COVID cases surge again, Salt Lake County leaders are pleading with people to get the vaccine. The county estimates 97% of all its cases and hospitalizations are unvaccinated people.
This is preventable. All we have to do is go get vaccinated.
Dr. Angela Dunn says inoculated people will protect kids who can't get the vaccine, but she has another recommendation.
When school starts up, I recommend all kids under the age of 12 be wearing their mask indoors. This will prevent the spread of COVID. It'll keep our kids in a safe environment and allow them to have a full in-person learning experience.
Salt Lake County can't really mandate it. Mayor Wilson says she can try.
As Salt Lake County Council could override us, but ultimately the state legislature can override the decision of our county council. For that reason, advocacy, if you believe and want further restrictions, needs to be to the state legislature.
The legislature explicitly banned mask mandates in Utah schools in the fall.
At this point, it's really futile. I mean, we've been in discussions. We, as public health, both local and state, have been in discussions with legislative leadership, and it's very clear that their intent is not have mask mandates.
On Capitol Hill, the House Speaker says they can still do a lot.
I think what you'll probably see, Ben, is as we move into the fall, there will be efforts focused on prevention, but also how to contain in case someone gets COVID, and how do we prevent it from spreading across the school. And that might include masks in some way, shape, or form.
The House Speaker says he's concerned about the Delta variant triggering a surge of COVID-19 cases, but says people do have a way out of it.
I hope people understand when they're choosing not to get a vaccine that that's in fact what they're choosing to kind of take the risk on. And as long as they know that, that's their decision, I guess.
Now, the State Health Department has told Fox 13 its back-to-school plans will recommend masks, but they will focus their efforts on prevention of virus spread and testing. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Happening right now, the Utah State Board of Education is holding a hearing over proposed amendments to rules around educational equity in schools. This comes as some parent groups have pushed for curriculum related to critical race theory be banned in schools nationwide. Right now, Janetta Williams, president of the Salt Lake area NAACP, is speaking. You can hear her voice. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Cognitive and social-emotional skills development and ensuring that all children have access to resources to enhance their learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, we just caught the very end there of Miss Janetta Williams, president of the Utah chapter of the NAACP. You can see this is a packed house at the Utah School Board meeting today. We will have more on what parents are saying about the issue. There were over 600 comments submitted. More on this issue tonight on Fox 13 News at 9.
In the meantime, Black Pine Fire in Box Elder County is now 40% contained. At first light this morning, crews were still attacking hot spots and securing the fire line. Still no word on a cause of this fire. The Provo Fire Marshal has updated fire restrictions to ban open fires along the city's watershed starting today. It includes all mountains and canyons beginning at the Springville city line and extending north along the East Bench to the Provo city line. The use of personal fire pits is allowed, however, discouraged. The fire marshal says it's to protect Provo's water supply. Violations are a Class B misdemeanor.
Starting today, you can legally light fireworks once again to celebrate Pioneer Day, but this fire from 2017 should serve as a reminder that things can go terribly wrong very quickly. This blaze was in Cottonwood Heights. It was started by people lighting fireworks a few years back. It quickly spread to nearby homes, burned one down, and threatened several others. There are now severe restrictions on fireworks in Cottonwood Heights. Police say they had tremendous compliance during the 4th of July weekend, and they are hoping for more of the same this weekend.
It's an education campaign, you know. We did have one individual on the 4th that basically begged us for a ticket, and so they got one, but outside of that, again, just education, making sure everybody's safe and on the same page.
There will be extra officers on patrol responding to every complaint of illegal fireworks use. We do have maps of areas that are under restriction and other information about fireworks use on our website if you visit fox13now.com.
Still to come, a big break in the fight against the opioid epidemic in Utah and across the country.
Plus, teachers being trained for active shooter situations. Hear from the Utah County Sheriff's Office about this hands-on experience.
A 2019 police shooting that has sparked criticism from the community was ruled justified by the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office. Coming up, we'll break down why that's the case.
Funding the fight against opioid addiction in Utah is about to get a big boost. Utah is about to get a cut of $26 billion in settlement money. We'll see more than $309 million paid out over the next 18 years. Governor Cox and Attorney General Sean Reyes announced the settlement today. Both say it is long overdue. For those recovering from addiction, they say it is a step in the right direction.
It really meant a lot to me to hear the state officials today talking about how just that no amount of money will fix the massive amount of loss we've seen in our state, but it does go a small way in addressing the problem.
Well, the money will be used for people struggling with addiction, prevention programs, and more.
The Utah County Sheriff's Office is training teachers on what to do in an active shooter situation at school. It's called the Teachers Academy. We spoke with Sergeant Spencer Cannon about it in depth today on Fox 13 News Live at noon. He says they started holding these courses in 2019, and this year's session is already full. For now, they are keeping the number to 30 people in each course to get through all the material.
Some of the teachers who have participated in the course will probably never carry a firearm, have never owned one, and may never own one, but they wanted to come through the course so that they could be familiarized with what actually is an active shooter or a school shooting, what happens during them, what are some things that I can do as a teacher to protect my little flock.
Although Utah hasn't had any mass school shootings, Sergeant Cannon says they want teachers and administrators to be prepared for the worst.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she'll move forward with a committee to look into the Capitol attack with or without Republicans. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington. More on the power struggle in Congress coming up.
And when you can't watch Fox 13 News Live, you can always watch us streaming online for free. Find us on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Just search Fox 13 on your device. We'll be right back. In national news, a select House committee will push forward in the investigation of the attack on the U.S. Capitol in January.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy says he will not nominate anyone from his party to serve on that panel. Fox's Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says he's pulling all 5 of his nominations to serve on a select committee that will look into how the January 6th attack on the Capitol happened and how to prevent another insurrection attempt. This after Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected 2 of his nominations.
There's no way that they're going to be on the committee.
Has what Speaker Pelosi done ever happened before? The idea that she's going to pick and choose, you're not going to get an outcome.
She denied Republicans Jim Jordan and Jim Banks.
With respect for the integrity of the investigation, with concern that the American people want to know the truth, I could not appoint them. I said that while this may be unprecedented, so was an attack on the Capitol.
The first hearing for the committee will take place on Tuesday morning, with or without new nominations from McCarthy. The minority leader says Republicans may hold their own investigation, but Republicans can't call committees as the minority party in the House. Senate Republicans have already rejected establishing a 9/11-style commission on the insurrection.
Nancy Pelosi shouldn't be picking the Republican members of a commission if that commission is truly independent.
Representative Liz Cheney is currently the sole GOP member on the committee appointed by Speaker Pelosi. The only other Republican representative who voted in favor of creating the panel is Adam Kinzinger.
There are some members who would like to be on it, but we'll see.
For the first hearing, the panel will focus on law enforcement with testimony from 4 police witnesses. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Today, President Biden signed a bill to strengthen the Crime Victims Fund. It helps crime survivors in several ways, including assistance with medical costs, legal fees, mental health services, and emergency housing. The bipartisan bill would replenish the fund and ensure it is stable for the foreseeable future. All 100 senators voted for the measure on Tuesday, a rare example of bipartisanship in a highly polarized political climate.
First Lady Dr. Jill Biden landed in Tokyo today for her first solo international trip on the eve of the opening of the Tokyo Olympic Games. Dr. Biden will lead the U.S. delegation to the Summer Olympics. The First Lady met with the Japanese Prime Minister and Emperor, as well as members of Team USA. The trip comes amid concerns over a recent rise in COVID-19 cases in Tokyo. Japan's capital city reported nearly 2,000 new cases today. Less than a quarter of Japan's population is fully vaccinated.
Turning to the weather in our neck of the woods, parts of southern Utah are really being hit hard by the rain. This is viewer video from Richfield, and it shows just how much. You can see the waves of the heavy rain coming down there. This porch video from a viewer down there in Richfield. I tell you what, it doesn't rain like this very often, but when it does.
Well, when it comes all at once, then we start to have issues. We've got the rain and the wind in the southern part of the state now.
Absolutely. And with our monsoon setup, I wanted to quickly first talk about that, then get into our current flash flood warnings that we have. We've got an area of high pressure, so what we're seeing is some clockwise motion here across the region. But a monsoon, I know people typically think that it means rainy season, but it actually means just the seasonal reversal of wind direction. So in the summer, this means it blows from sea to land. So we're pumping lots of this tropical moisture into Utah from the southwest and from the southeast. And once we get high pressure parked over the southern part of the state, we see this clockwise motion, and that's why we're seeing the storm setup that we're currently seeing. And with this today, our flash flood warnings, unfortunately, are coming in some areas that are extremely prone to seeing brief heavy rainfall. So flash flood warning until 10:45 for all through Kane County, basically. So this is for the upper Paria River Basin, including Bull Valley, Gorge, Sheep Creek, and Dunham Slot Canyon. It's going to track towards the south into our drainage areas near the Arizona border. Escalante until 8:15, a flash flood warning for upper Escalante River Basin and Calf Creek. Up towards Capitol Reef, flash flood warning for the next hour until 6:15. Sheets Gulch, 5 Mile Wash, and Cottonwood Wash. Down towards Zion National Park, a flash flood warning until 5:45 for Pine Creek, Spry Canyon, Shelf Canyon, and Lower Clear Creek. And we'll also see some elevated flows through the East Fork of the Virgin River. Flash flood watch for much of southern Utah, everything in green that you're seeing. And then we had a special weather statement in your Enterprise that just expired a few minutes ago, but still seeing tons of heavy rainfall through the area. Milford's getting hit again with some more moderate to heavy rain. And at about 2:45 today, we had some reports of street flooding in downtown Milford. So lots of problems up towards Richfield. That first video that we showed you, Richfield High School's also had some flooding this afternoon. Moving a little further north along Highway 6, keeping my eye on the Bear Burn Scar. Soldier Summit area along Highway 6, seeing some of that moderate to heavier rainfall, and then up towards the Idaho border. Special weather statement until 5:30 for this cell that's moving through Snowville right now. Half-inch hail and wind up to 50 miles per hour. So a whole lot going on here across the state. Here in Salt Lake, you're wondering, you're like, hey, it's mostly clear and it's hot. 98 degrees. We're not seeing much precipitation here, but I'll tell you what, the dew points right now, St. George, 66 degrees, extremely humid for St. George standards. For temperatures across the state, it's about 75 to 95 here across Utah right now. Excessive rain outlook brings our best chance for that flash flooding from Bryce down towards Zion National Park, down towards Kanab. For tomorrow, moderate chances for excessive rain into Arizona, but futurecast through the rest of the evening, we continue with some showers and thunderstorms through about 9-10 o'clock tonight. St. George, you're around 100 degrees through Saturday, mid-90s for Sunday, low 90s to start next week, with overnight temperatures in the 70s. And for the Wasatch Front, we're in the upper 90s through our weekend and Monday. Mid-90s after that. Coming up later in the hour, let's look at our flash flood potential for tomorrow and what you can expect for the next few afternoons as this active pattern will continue.
A deadly police shooting has been ruled justified.
Officer Atkin yelled, "Holy F, he's got my gun."
Coming up, we look at what the district attorney saw that cleared the officer.
Many renters in Utah are anxious for August. Coming up, as tens of thousands are behind on rent, we look at the numbers and where to turn for help.
The tradition continues tomorrow with the Days of 47 parade, but why some people have decided to celebrate early.
General Motors is halting the majority of its full-size pickup truck production for 1 week, beginning on Monday.
Bob, it indicates just how much trouble the year-long global computer chip shortage is causing in the auto industry. Large pickups and SUVs are the best-selling and most profitable vehicles. The companies have tried to keep production going by shifting available chips away from less popular vehicles, but the global supply is once again taking a hit as the Delta variant takes hold around the world, prompting renewed shutdowns and restrictions at automakers. One estimate indicates this will cost the auto industry $110 billion in lost revenue this year alone.
Burger chain Shake Shack is investing more than $10 million in higher wages and hiring bonuses. And there are other programs over the next 12 months to lure more workers amid a major labor shortage. Shake Shack raised wages at more than half of its locations last year and raised them again at 2/3 of its restaurants this year. The company is offering signing bonuses of $1,000 for new managers and $500 for hourly workers.
Victoria's Secret is changing once again. The company says it sees opportunities in maternity clothing in locations outside of malls. Victoria's Secret is being separated from Bath & Body Works next month and will be its own standalone company. Victoria's Secret's chief executive says it now wants to be the world's leading advocate for women, which makes maternity an important part of the business. It's also removing imagery in stores that no longer reflect the brand. The company says it could revive its fashion shows, but in a different way.
HBO Max is getting a boost from Warner Brothers. The movie studio says it'll make more than 10 new movies for the streaming service next year. Warner says the company cannot ignore the success of at-home viewing. HBO and HBO Max topped 47 million U.S. subscribers in the second quarter. The Warner Brothers movies made for HBO Max will play in select theaters so they can be in the running for the Oscars.
U.S. stocks edged higher today in a quiet session, keeping the major indexes on course to close out the week with gains. The Dow gained 25 points to close at 34,823. The Nasdaq rose 53. The S&P added 9.
Today, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill ruled a 2019 police shooting justified. Coming up, we'll explore the facts of the case and what led up to his decision.
Tens of thousands of Utah households are behind on rent, and evictions can start in 1 week. We have the numbers every Utahn should see.
Today, the Salt Lake County District Attorney announced a West Valley City police sergeant was justified when he shot and killed a man in custody at police headquarters back in 2019.
Fox 13's Diego Romo has details of what influenced that decision.
District Attorney Sim Gill says based off of evidence gathered from body camera footage and witness statements, it's reasonable to believe that if Sergeant Longman hadn't taken deadly force against Michael Chad Breinholt, officers in the room where the incident happened would likely have been shot or even killed.
In this process, we reviewed a variety of material, everything from police reports, incident materials gathered by the task force, dispatch traffic, body-worn camera footage.
The shooting took place on the night of August 23, 2019. Michael Chad Breinholt was taken into custody by West Valley police officers under suspicion of driving under the influence of alcohol. They took Breinholt to City Hall to conduct blood alcohol tests.
When they arrived at City Hall, Officer Lane escorted Mr. Breinholt into a small room. This was a temporary, I believe, intoxilizer room in the basement where West Valley City had set up the intoxilizer machine.
Breinholt refused a breath test, and officers had him sit and wait in that small room while they obtained a warrant to draw blood.
Sergeant Longman responded to help the officers with that process. Longman was not part of the original arresting officers, but came down there to assist.
Breinholt, who was visibly intoxicated and even asked for medical assistance at one point, claimed multiple times he had a hidden gun in his shoe. Officers knew Breinholt was unarmed as they searched him before bringing him to City Hall.
Concerned that Mr. Breinholt would do something with his shoe, Officer Atkin ordered him to give it up. Mr. Breinholt refused.
Officers then tried to take the shoe from Breinholt. That's when he got up and, with his hands cuffed behind his back, attempted to unholster one officer's gun.
Officer Atkin yelled, "Holy F, he's got my gun."
3 of the officers, including Sergeant Longman, then scuffled with Breinholt for about 7 seconds. Longman threw a punch, then said, quote, "You're about to die, my friend," before drawing his gun and shooting Breinholt once in the head, killing him instantly. The shooting has sparked criticism from the community, and Gill acknowledged that from a citizen's perspective, he thinks things could have been handled differently.
When our legal outcomes do not align with our moral expectations, there's a sense of injustice there. So I understand that. But I have to look at the cold reality of what the law allows me to do, and I cannot contradict the factual circumstances that are here.
The shooting was Sergeant Longman's 3rd during his time with the West Valley City Police Department.
I cannot take that into account, just like I do not take into account the criminal history of anybody who's shot.
At times, District Attorney Sim Gill was visibly shaken up and appeared to even be frustrated at the outcome of this investigation, saying that we have far too many of these police shootings and that, quote, "we need to learn from this." His solution, procedural and legislative changes that would change the scope of when and how police can use deadly force. In Salt Lake City, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
West Valley City issued a statement saying this decision brings to a close a challenging chapter for all involved. We are grateful to our officers who diligently serve our community each day and in the face of impossibly difficult decisions, consistently do their best. Since last March, Americans who could not afford their monthly rent have had the benefit of a national moratorium on evictions.
But those bills haven't just disappeared, and the on-pause rent ends on July 31st, a week from Saturday. Today, Max Roth has an in-depth look at what that means for Utah.
I want to get right to it because there are thousands of our fellow Utahns really scared of August 1st right now. One thing to keep in mind, we're talking about households with these numbers. So multiply each of them by 3 or 4 to get a better idea of how many people we're talking about.
44,500. The Census Bureau tells us that's how many Utah households were past due on rent at the end of June and beginning of July. 78,500. That's how many Utah renters have no confidence or slight confidence they can pay next month. 11,600. That's how many Utah households with children were behind on rent. 28,600. That's how many Utah households with children have no or slight confidence they can pay rent next month. The Treasury Department, though, has a lot of money available to help those Utahns, but if you live outside of Salt Lake County and City, you probably haven't gotten any. At the end of June, the state of Utah had spent 8% of its $150 million allocated in rent relief. Utah County had spent 8% of their $19 million. Davis County, 16% of their $10.7 million. But Salt Lake County had given out almost half of their $29 million, and Salt Lake City had given 90% of their $6 million.
With almost 80,000 households thinking they're likely to miss next month's rent, the Treasury Department said all told, Utah had gotten assistance to 7,029 households. If you or someone you know is worried about paying the rent, please go to our story about this. We'll link you to the state's rental assistance application. They have a lot of money to help. In studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
On Utah's Capitol Hill, Governor Cox recognized a leader of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints today.
At a ceremony this afternoon, the governor declared tomorrow President M. Russell Ballard Day. It's for the 93-year-old religious leader's efforts to preserve state history, including This Is the Place Heritage State Park and the Days of 47 celebration.
I hope that somehow we who live in this great state of all religious beliefs can always have in our hearts to honor and praise God, our Heavenly Father, for the blessings that are ours, to be able to live in such a beautiful, wonderful state, in a great country, and in a beautiful city.
Ballard is the acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Whether you're planning to enjoy the parade in person or avoid the road closures, Salt Lake Police want you to be prepared ahead of the Pioneer Day Parade. This is a map of the route. Take a look at your screen. Vehicles cannot be parked along the route right after 8 p.m. tonight, or they will be towed. Road closures will begin shortly before 6 o'clock tomorrow morning and remain in place until about noon.
Happening right now, people are already camping out in downtown Salt Lake City. They always do. One of the oldest continuous parades in the West will take over downtown. The Days of 47 parade was canceled last year because of COVID-19.
Camping out is a tradition for a lot of Utah
In and of itself,
families.
it is.
Fox 13's HAILEY Higgins learned how this tradition is helping one family feel normal again after a very difficult summer.
Well, the parade is back Friday morning, and some people have started camping out earlier than ever. Friendly competition on 200 East Thursday as parade squatters stake out their favorite spots.
That's perfect.
There's a little guilt associated with having your 80-year-old mom holding down our spot for the parade.
In more than 35 years of coming to the parade, Carolyn Mellon never thought she'd ever spend 2 nights saving their front row seats. That is until last night.
It's just one of those traditions you carry on. And we do it now for the grandkids.
Quality time, yeah, family time.
Carolyn intends to sleep in her chair tonight. Last night, it was the car.
And it's hot, you know, in the car. And then in the morning it gets really loud, you know, when the traffic starts and people start coming to work.
Carolyn's had many sleepless nights after waking to the sound of their home on fire on June 21st. Her home in Cottonwood Heights, the place she raised her family, destroyed by smoke and fire.
It started in the garage. They have really no idea. They haven't figured out exactly what caught fire in the garage.
Carolyn and her husband hope to move into a new home soon. While they've lost nearly everything, the fires illuminated what really matters: family and the memories made together.
Well, we've got some little ones that have never really, you know, seen the parade before, so that'll be fun.
While some may argue it's just a parade, for the Mellon family, it's about keeping traditions and what truly matters right in front of you. Well, the parade committee is inviting people to come downtown, hang out, grab some food if you'd like, and the parade starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Reporting in downtown Salt Lake City, HAILEY Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All the best to that family. By the way, you may have noticed the Pioneer Day Parade is not being held on the 24th of July, as is normally the case. It's being held tomorrow, the 23rd. Well, the Days of 47 committee says it's so television coverage of the parade doesn't conflict with Olympic coverage on Saturday morning.
Well, coming up, a new study from one Utah-based doctor now proves you can't believe what you read online about cancer treatment.
Plus, a piece of Utah is now with the new NBA champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. We talk with the company that made the team's special jackets honoring their victory.
I'm tracking thunderstorms here across our state right now, where we have those warnings and what you can expect tomorrow coming up in the forecast. We're back in 60 seconds.
It's something we've all heard too often. You need to be careful when looking up information online. And now a new study shows 1 in 3 of the most popular cancer treatment articles on social media contain misinformation. The doctor spearheading the study works at the Huntsman Cancer Institute here in Utah. Dr. Skylar Johnson has a first-hand experience with searching for answers online. His wife was diagnosed with cancer during his 2nd year of medical school.
I came away with it with an immense amount of empathy, because I know what it feels like to be in a vulnerable situation where you're scared, you're afraid, there's a lot of unknowns, and then to go to the internet to try to get answers for that information and to see how challenging it is to know what is accurate and what is not.
Johnson's wife has since gratefully made a full recovery, and her diagnosis put him on the path to his current specialty in radiation oncology. Johnson also says their study showed a pattern of things found online that could cause the most harm. We share some of those most alarming things. You can see the full study at fox13now.com. Kelly?
A Utah company has made a special piece of NBA history for the new champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. Coleman Knitting Mills, there in Ogden, produced commemorative Letterman jackets for all of the Bucks players. The owner of Coleman Knitting Mills shared his thoughts leading up to the team's victory over the Phoenix Suns earlier this week.
The whole game, I couldn't even be in the room. So I did the chores outside the house. And when I finally went in, there was only 3 minutes left. And my wife and my son were freaking out because they're up, they're going to win. And all I could think was, that's a lot of jackets to make in a short period of time.
It's a lot of jackets to outfit a whole team. The seamstresses at Coleman Knitting Mills made all 17 Letterman jackets from scratch. They did it all yesterday. They were presented to the players during their championship parade just this morning. So made and overnighted, done.
Oh, they look good. Coming up, we'll hear from Tom Farden, the Utah gymnastics coach, as he gets ready to watch his athletes compete at the Olympics.
So glad you could join us for Fox 13 News Live at 5. Meteorologist Allison Krogan will have your first alert forecast in just a few minutes as we keep our eyes on southern Utah, where flash flooding and that kind of thing is in the news again today.
A lot happening in weather, but now we do have an update on a story Fox 13 News broke this morning. Virtually the entire state of Utah is now in the worst drought classification.
But as bad as it is, Utah's drought situation could still get worse. Governor Spencer Cox says you can expect policy changes with talks underway on Capitol Hill. State House Speaker Brad Wilson says bills are in the works.
I think you'll see a renewed focus on conservation efforts. That's probably our biggest area of focus this next session, but there's probably other things that you'll see. One of the areas that I'm hearing some interest in is making sure we have enough capacity, and so maybe there's some water projects that need to be invested in as well.
Speaker Wilson also says lawmakers need to ensure the state's agriculture industry is taken care of and have a plan for protecting the Great Salt Lake.
Water conservation advocates are looking at one of Utah's biggest water wasters, unlined canals, which will allow water to seep into surrounding soil.
But for one Garland, Utah resident, that water became a huge problem when building his new home. Fox 13's Spencer Joseph reports on what's happening and how much water is being wasted.
We started a drain that starts on.
This is Trevor Wright. And this is Trevor's home that's under construction. In April, he started digging his foundation and everything was fine.
So we dug the hole, initially no problems. The water was turned into the canal in May. 2 to 3 weeks after the water was turned into the canal, we started getting water in the basement.
Water started coming from the walls of his foundation. The culprit, a nearby unlined canal that carries water to farms all over the area.
That's at about 8 feet deep.
where that water is just pouring in.
And it's the water from this canal that's seeping into the ground, going all the way back 500 feet underground into Trevor Wright's new basement. So he had to do something, at first trying to pump the water out.
The sump pump is not able to keep up with the demand of water.
He then put in a trench to drain the water instead, now pumping the water away from his home at about 80 gallons a minute.
It's a sump pump with a float switch on it that's supposed to shut off once the water level gets below the float switch. It's never shut off.
While this is a problem, if it was isolated, it would be an easy fix. But this isn't just a problem for Trevor or even just in Garland, Utah. According to the Utah Rivers Council, between 30 and 50% of the water running through unlined canals is lost. Exactly how many miles of lined versus unlined canals is unknown. But in the state, the majority of them are not lined with anything, just dirt.
To do quick math with what we're losing here, I'm pumping roughly 100,000 gallons a day out of one small 2-acre piece of property. So imagine in the hundreds of miles of canals we have, how much water is being lost throughout the state.
But until a state or local or some other authority steps up, precious water continues to sink into the ground out of reach.
Well, it's very frustrating. There's going to be a lot of money and time involved in it, and I'll be patient as long as I know there's going to be something taken care of.
Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, I'll get to the rain in just a second. First, I wanted to start with our smoke analysis across the country because check it out, Midwest and still into eastern portions of the country dealing with some medium to heavy smoke. Utah is actually one of the best places here across the country regarding our smoke analysis. So light smoke here across northern Utah will probably get a bit more of that filtered in because of our setup for the upcoming weekend for northern Utah. Our air quality for Friday and Saturday is for mandatory action with an orange level, which is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the satellite and radar because flash flooding is a really big concern for the rest of the evening, especially near the Arizona border. So here's what we currently have going on. A flash flood warning for southern Utah. So the drainage is from Bryce Canyon down into the Arizona border, the upper Paria River Basin area, including Bull Valley Gorge, Sheep Creek and Dunham Slot Canyon till 10:45 tonight. Multiple waves of this are expected. Up towards Escalante until 8:15, a flash flood warning for the upper Escalante River Basin in Calf Creek. Capitol Reef, a flash flood warning till 6:15 for Sheets Gulch 5-mile wash and also Cottonwood Wash. Zion National Park, the flash flood warning just expired 5 minutes ago. It was allowed to expire. And then flash flood watch, though, still in effect for all of southern Utah until midnight. We look at Milford area. This is where we've had some street flooding this afternoon and still more rain's been coming down. The flooding occurred about 2:45 today. So there was some debris on SR 21 near Milford. They had more than an inch of rain in an hour and wind gusts up to about 50 miles per hour. Richfield had some flooding this afternoon also. Highway 6 still seeing some rain coming down near Soldier Summit. And then looking into Dugway up towards Cedar Fort. So southern part of the Ochre is still seeing some showers and thunderstorms. And near the Arizona border, some thunderstorms have been bringing some hail moving through the I-15 area just southwest of Preston. All right, temperatures here across the state still it's hot. Upper 90s here along the Wasatch Front. St. George 92. It's also really muggy across southwestern Utah right now. The rest of today, flash flooding is expected for Capitol Reef, Glen Canyon, Escalante, San Rafael Swell, and also Zion National Park. Top concerns with flash flooding, slot canyons, normally dry washes, and burn scars. Tomorrow morning here along the Wasatch Front, mid-70s at 6 a.m. into the 80s by 10 o'clock in the morning. For overnight temperatures across the state, 65 to 75 for most of you. Highs tomorrow about 85 to 95 here across the state. Next couple of afternoons, Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon across southern Utah. We're going to keep the showers across the south. Smoke returns across the north. So our rain projection over the next 7 days is mostly down into Arizona, where several inches of rain are possible. So getting some monsoon action. For southern Utah, about 100 degrees through Saturday, mid-90s to low 90s after that until Tuesday. Then you heat back up. And for the Wasatch Front, about 100 degrees through Monday, mid-90s starting next Tuesday.
It's going to be an exciting Olympics for the Utah gymnastics program, especially for the guy that has coached or will coach the Olympians in Utah. Here's Fox 13's Morgan Vance with that story.
Imagine being Tom Farden. So a scale of 1 to 10, and you can say 11 if you want, but excitement level for the summer games this go around.
Obviously this year a little bit more. It's probably a 12.
A coach celebrating 3 different Utes, 2 incoming and 1 outgoing, all experiencing those Olympic rings together.
Each one has their own story. For them to reach this level of Olympic caliber athlete, it's a lifetime achievement. It's not just something that happened over a couple of years. It's something that they've built for this entire life, and to see their dreams come true, we're over the moon.
Michaela Skinner has done this before, 5 years ago in fact, as an alternate in Brazil, but this time Tom believes you'll not only see her compete, but in all 4 events.
People are going to see what Michaela Skinner is all about, and she's fierce, and she's extremely determined, and she's somebody who's going to give every ounce she's got, because that's just who she is. This has been her dream, and now she's going to live it out.
Only one other American gymnast has ever taken Skinner's unique route to get there.
Was at a very elite level, went to college, then made the Olympics. So it's a very rare thing.
As for Kara Akers, she made the trip to Tokyo as an alternate, only to find out this week that a bout with COVID had ended any shot of seeing the international spotlight in 2021.
Heartbroken and devastated, but we've been in touch with her. We just did a team Zoom with her the other night, trying to keep her spirits up, and she seems to be hanging in there. But also moving forward, and was asking some questions of, what do you think my routine composition should be for NCAA now?
But that still leaves plenty of Ute representation, with Skinner and U.S. team member Grace McCallum ready to chase the bling of a medal in Japan.
Glad I'm not in the national team coordinator's position and have to pick lineups. But they're both ready to go. They look spot on.
Morgan Vance, Fox 13 Sports.
Utah State senior Savon Scarver has been named the Mountain West Conference preseason Special Teams Player of the Year. He's the Aggies' all-time record holder with 6 career kickoff returns for touchdowns, which is 5th most in NCAA history, one off the all-time NCAA record. Former Boise State quarterback CADE FENNEGAN announced he'll transfer to BYU and join the team this fall after getting a scholarship offer from the Cougars. He threw a couple of touchdown passes against BYU last season in the Cougars' 51-17 win in Boise. We'll be right back.
Finally, scary video from Park City showing a moose chasing a teenager. Happened last Saturday. Look at that. Moose goes under the tennis net and goes after that teen as they ran away. Then the video stops. We've reached out to the state to have them weigh in on this. Of course, don't ever provoke a moose. They are so dangerous.
Ever.
You don't want to get in.
I think that moose went under the net of the sand volleyball court.
Yeah, right?
Wow. See you back here tonight at 9.